Fam, what's going on? Good morning. It is Kyle Henderson of Bama Football on YouTube. Can I get a roll tide inside the comment box? Before we get going, I just want to say thank you very much for watching the show. All right, we got a great show lined up for you today. Going to go over the college football playoffs, talk some signing day, which is tomorrow. A lot going on in the show. But first, a quick intro. If you haven't been here to Bama Football on YouTube, show starts right after this message. Fam, welcome to Bama Football on YouTube. We have 110,000 subscribers, and our goal is to provide Alabama football content on a constant basis. One of the areas that you can access our videos is by going to our home tab, and by looking at our videos, we also post YouTube Shorts, which are short clips, and we also have a daily live show with myself, Kyle Henderson, that starts every day at 10 a.m. Central Time. I know it sounds redundant, but every single video you watch, I would certainly appreciate you hitting the thumbs up button. It's pretty easy to do. If you haven't seen it before, there's the button. Just hit the thumbs up. It helps the video's performance. You can also find us on various links. We upload all of our shows onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and you can also connect with us on Facebook. More on that later. We are supported by viewers like you, I'm not going to lie. So one area that you can help us in is becoming a fan funder by only $2.99. As you can see, our total members is at 330. We want to bump that number to 1,000, maybe even more. I'd really appreciate your guys' consideration in doing that. Another area is Super Chats. During our live shows, you can hit the Super Chat icon, which looks like a $ icon inside the chat box. All of your support is greatly appreciated. We really appreciate your continued support. Another area is to connect with us on Facebook, Alabama Crimson Tide on YouTube, on Facebook. That is our YouTube channel where we post daily content. And honestly, it is a very interactive place. We basically treat this like our website. We don't have a website, but there are so many Alabama football fans that are on this Facebook channel. I think we have close to 40,000 Facebook fans, and it's fun to interact with all of those fans and get different takes. We have come a long way. Here's a video from 7 to 8 years ago when we were doing our live show, and we want to continue to grow. So when you come to the YouTube channel, if you're not subscribed already, hit the subscribe button. Be sure to turn on all notifications, specifically with the transfer portal now heating up. We appreciate your guys' continued support, and thank you very much. The last thing that I want to hit on is the fact that we've started another YouTube channel called College Football News with Kyle Henderson. Definitely check it out. It's college football. It's all the time. We appreciate you guys one more time. Kyle Henderson, enjoy the show.
18 national championships. Alabama is the champagne of college football. The best of the best, the gold standard. Cause that's what you deserve as a fan. This is Bama Football on YouTube. Covering Alabama football at the highest level. Often copied, but never duplicated. From Kalen DeBoer's post-game press conference to news as it happens. Independently owned and operated. Coming to you from Tuscaloosa, Alabama, the place where legends are made, the one and only self-made Kyle Henderson. Let a naysayer know, roll tide roll.
Fam, what is going on? I appreciate you guys being here. Roll tide to you, and I hope that you guys are off to a blessed start on this beautiful Tuesday. It is December 3rd. I'm feeling really good today, and I have a lot of gratitude for you being here on the show. Today on the show, and thank you for watching that intro, I feel that I wanted to put that together because there's a lot of people that might know all the intricacies that go into supporting a content creator, behind the scenes, how much is put into the YouTube channel, so I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I'll probably be rolling that a few minutes before each live show, so just heads up on that, but I do plan to start my lives every day at 10 a.m. Central Time, and of course, as news happens. And I want to get you guys' attention real quick because signing day is tomorrow, so we will be live tomorrow. Major news happens. I got a big show lined up for tomorrow, which is signing day. I appreciate you guys. I'm rocking the Ryan Williams hoodie, Hollywood. You can get the gear at Breaking T for the gear to support the players, or Athletes Thread. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. Today on the show, we're talking college football playoffs, right? The playoffs come out tonight at 6 p.m. Central Time. So I'll be live with you guys. We'll go over the rankings. We'll go over the playoff bracket, how it looks for Alabama And we'll spend a good majority of the time this morning talking about college football playoff scenarios, all right? After that, we're going to talk a little bit about signing day, what to expect for tomorrow. Alabama has a monster class. I just went and I was doing my pre-show reads, and I saw that, a lot of the Alabama's ranked number 1 on 3. I get it. Things could change, and we'll talk more about Ty Haywood not being a part of that class, which I think is significant. And so we'll talk more about that. Also, think about an advantage right now that Coach Kalen DeBoer has almost by being able to pay attention more to this transfer portal that is upcoming, recruiting that is upcoming, because as you know, look, Alabama isn't playing this weekend. The silver lining is he has more time to spend with his team to talk about the roster management and the outlook of this team as Alabama awaits its fate in the college football playoffs. As mentioned, you got championship weekend. We'll touch on that one more time, and then we'll look at signing day and, of course, talk about some transfer portal targets that I have in mind right here on the show. Thank you so much for being on the program today, and let's do this, and let's open it up by talking about the college football playoffs. I appreciate you guys one more time for being here on Bama Football on YouTube. So I start off the show, and I preview this to say, we got to go over this. So I've been talking to North Alabama Storm Chase, and he's like, "What do you want me to do for this weekend?" And I was like, "Man, if you could put a graphic together." No, we're not on the same team. We're comrades, right? So I was like, if you want to put together like a graphic that just shows SEC championships. So North Alabama Storm Chase, another content creator, go follow him on Facebook. But here's what the weekend looks like for Georgia and Texas and the beautiful ATL. All right. The good thing is it's inside. I love the Mercedes Stadium. Been over there countless times. I like to call it Bryant-Denny East, right? Although Alabama's not playing in the championship game, you got Georgia and Texas, temperature 47 on the outside. Indoor temp is a balmy 72 degrees, and on the drive home, 47. Be safe and enjoy your SEC championship. We'll probably, I'll probably do a watch-along for this game or for that ACC championship game, because there's a lot on the line. So let's dive into it right now as you look at the playoff chances going into this game for the championship weekend. Here it sits. Notre Dame's in. Oregon's in. You know what? Notre Dame, they figured out this loophole. And I was thinking about this too. It's like, why are teams even playing in a conference anymore? Because you get penalized if you play the gauntlet of a schedule. We'll talk more about Greg Byrne's message to the media and to the college football playoffs. We have a snapshot of that as well. Notre Dame's in, Oregon's in, Texas is in, Penn State's in, Georgia's in, Indiana's in, Tennessee's in, Ohio State. I would imagine that SMU, we'll talk more about that. Boise State's in. The winner of Iowa State and Arizona State is in. Clemson has to beat SMU to get in, and then you have Alabama with the 30% chance. And then, of course, UNLV can still play their way in by beating Boise State. All right. So this morning, Heather Dinich, and look, this is a woman who gets a lot of notoriety when talking about the college football playoffs. She works for ESPN. She's a lead reporter in terms of talking college football playoffs. I get it. There's a lot of people in that space, but think about it. Like, I feel on YouTube and overall, Josh Pate is like the guy. But a lot of people talk about what Heather Dinich says, and she reports right from the college football playoff rankings. So I'm going to read out a quote this morning that she had on ESPN. There's no bigger question tonight than what they do with Miami. She's talking about the playoff committee. I project them to stay in because I think when you look at the 2 losses against Georgia Tech and Syracuse ahead of Alabama's 3 losses, but of those 2 losses were teams with 6 losses each. That's Oklahoma and Vanderbilt. Now, that's one take from someone. I don't think that Heather Dinich even has, I don't think she's in the room voting on the teams. I think she's just a college football analyst. But look, people are going to value what she says, and I think people are right now pointing out the fact that Alabama, the losses that they have, the Oklahoma loss wasn't good, and the way that they played specifically, right? I think Vanderbilt, that was a team that just absolutely, punched above their belt, and they did that all season long. I mean, Vanderbilt was a team that was tough to beat, and we'll talk more about that, in the strength of the SEC, right? So there's one take from Heather Dinich, and that was on ESPN. I found this particular quote interesting because out of the teams I'm looking at, and I'll just cut right to the chase for you guys. I feel it's pretty. I feel it's pretty easy. It's between Alabama and whatever happens in the ACC championship game. I feel that if SMU wins that game, Alabama's in, 100%. I feel that if Clemson wins that game, it's between SMU and Alabama. All right, so. Look, you have SMU at that point would have an 11-2 record. You would have Alabama with a 9-3. You would have Miami with a 10-2. She has Miami in. I find it hard to put a team in the playoffs that hasn't played a top 25 team. Plus, Miami all season long, like, we're college football fans. We knew that they were a pretender, and it eventually caught up with them. The thing with Alabama is kind of like feast or famine, and for the most part, it was feast. Right? Plus, they played, and I know we'll go over Greg Byrne's comments as well, but I have it as Alabama's 3-1 against top 25 teams. 3-1 against top 25 teams. Brett McMurphy, who works for the Action Network, yesterday he asked this question. If SMU, this is the question we're all talking about, if SMU wins the ACC, who should get the final at-large spot? I found this interesting too. Look, there was 21,000 votes. I don't know if they were all from South Carolina or where these votes were from or what was the only criteria to vote on this was to be a part of X, right? Twitter. And to my surprise, South Carolina. And what is mind-boggling to me is the fact that people are still pulling for South Carolina to be in over Alabama. I am not denying that South Carolina is a good football team. They are. But I already saw those two teams play this year. That was like the playoff play-in game. Ricky Smith brings up an amazing point. Can you imagine how much cheering there will be in the streets if Alabama is left out? And as I said yesterday, look, say what you want. Alabama might be vulnerable. You don't know which team you're going to get. If Alabama is left out of that playoff, Notre Dame is like, oh my goodness, thank you. We don't have to play. We don't have to play Alabama anymore and get destroyed at South Bend. Boise State's like, okay, thank goodness. We don't have to get embarrassed in the New Year's Six. And Georgia, even though they could be pumping their chest right now, I say it all the time. For whatever reason, those two teams meet again. Georgia will be favored. Everything will be lined up for Georgia, and Alabama will beat Georgia. It continues to happen. So in this pretend poll right here on X, people pulling for South Carolina, then Miami, then Alabama. And I got to think, too, a lot of this still is because of Bama fatigue. That is one of the reasons that I feel that people also are pulling for Alabama not to make the playoffs, because I feel outside of the Alabama ecosystem, there's a lot of Bama fatigue, and they're compounding that with that Alabama has lost 3 games. So like, look, you lost 3 games. You don't deserve to get in. Plus, we're tired of seeing you running the table when you get to the playoffs. There's a lot of people that are still mentally damaged from what Alabama has done in college football under Nick Saban. I promise you. That's another reason that they don't want them in the playoffs. It's also a Bama fatigue. Now compounded on the fact that they lost 3 games. Well, look, these other teams lost games too to unranked opponents. Josh Miller in with the super chat. I appreciate you, man. And Josh Miller says, hey, Kyle, easy solution for Byrne and the SEC commish. Call playoff committee and threaten the SEC teams will cancel all big-time out-of-conference games where money lives strong. Strength of schedule matters. That's man, you know what? The strength of schedule, that's the other thing. Boise, you want to play at this level, come join the SEC. Same thing to Arizona State. Same thing to Iowa State. The Big 12, the Mountain West, the ACC, these teams on a bang, come to the SEC. How many games would Miami would have really won if they played in the SEC? I don't know. I don't think they would have won 10 games. I think Miami and South Carolina should be paired up in a bowl game. That should be the playoff game. And I think South Carolina would handle Miami I think they would. All right. Brett McMurphy also has Alabama still making the playoffs. So while he did that poll and he let the poll run out, here is his actual bracket. This is from the Action Network. He has Alabama at an 11 seed. I have Alabama in at 12 or 11. In this scenario, he'd have them playing Penn State on the road in Happy Valley. I think when all is said and done, I think Penn State will be a little bit further down. And I have Alabama playing Notre Dame, or I have Alabama playing. Well, this is interesting because he has Penn State above Ohio State because Penn State, I guess his reasoning is that Penn State would have finished, I guess, higher than Ohio State. Interesting point to look at. But I feel if Georgia is able to beat Texas, then Texas would be number 5 and Notre Dame would be number 6. I think the highest probability is if Alabama makes is Alabama on the road to play Notre Dame or Alabama on the road to play Texas. Or Alabama on the road to play Oregon if Penn State's able to beat Oregon in the big championship. Look, this is remember the BCS, the computer that just like put together the polls and the rankings? Well, this is what the computer has. The computer has Oregon, Texas. Remember, the BCS would just tell you the top 2 teams, and this is who's playing for a championship game. And to be honest, if this was the case right now and they just had Oregon and Texas and that was your championship game, look, I now want to see how this 12-team playoff works out. I do. But if you told me, look, Oregon and Texas are playing for the championship game, I'd be like, okay. And I watch the game. But they have it Oregon, Texas, Notre Dame, surprising. Penn State, surprising. Georgia, Ohio State, SMU, Tennessee. That star indicates where Alabama is. And in the BCS computer model has Alabama above South Carolina, Miami, and Ole Miss. I guess the 3 other bubble teams. So this is the computer model, remember? Fun to look at. You know, I don't know. Maybe that's another poll I should have posted inside the comment box. What? Do we want the computer spitting out the top 12? Look, if the computer just did 1 through 12, maybe that's the way to do it. And then you would have Alabama in at number 11 and playing Ohio State. Do we want a computer doing 1 through 12? Like an AI? Or do we want 12 people deciding the fates of the team? It's the old, machine versus the brain. And it's just not one person, though. That's why did we go to this model in college football? And why is this the only model? You imagine if the NFL was decided by like 13 people that just jumped into a room and were like, this team's better than this team's better than this team. No. College football, this is the biggest problem is how they pick the teams to go in. And making rules that if you win a conference championship, you have a automatic shot. It should be the best 12 teams, period. And if you want to play, and if you want to really prove that you're the top 12 teams, then join a bigger conference. All right, so people were saying this was a big statement. So, Greg Byrne, look, I think we all know, if you've heard this man speak, this guy is very intelligent. He's articulate. He's intelligent. Greg Byrne, he's the man. All right. So this is what he put together. He posted this on X recently. I think this was yesterday. Here's a good look at the number rankings for Alabama football. Recognize there's a lot of chatter out there about 2 versus 3 lost teams. However, that's just one factor. When you look at the college football playoff principles for its selection committee, the first bullet point on the list is considerations is strength of schedule. Not all schedules and conferences are created equal. Like, that's the truth. And that's what I've been arguing too. Greg Byrne is basically telling you the gauntlet of the SEC is far different than the Big 12, far different than the Group of Five. I would even say it's more challenging than the Big Conference. I think those are like the two top conferences. But come on, Indiana played in that conference all season long and only played one top 25 team. We've seen Penn State play before. Is anybody really impressed with Penn State? No. Nobody's impressed with Penn State. Penn State will be exposed. Indiana will be exposed. Those teams will be exposed. Notre Dame will be exposed. Just wait. Just wait. Come back. Save the receipts. Just come back and see it. There is zero chance that Notre Dame plays for a championship, and the same thing with Penn State, and the same thing with Indiana. Greg Byrne also tweeted this infographic with his statement, which reads out, Alabama is number 2 in opponent winning percentage. Man, that's an impressive stat. That's the schedule of strength, right? That's how good your opponents were on the schedule. Number 4 in ESPN FPI. Number 4 in ESPN efficiency ratings. That's offense, defense, special teams. That's a quality team, right? Number 10 in ESPN strength of record. Number 17 in ESPN strength of schedule. 3 wins. He has it with me. I was wondering where Coach Kalen DeBoer had 4, but I guess it notates on the bottom. 3 wins against teams currently ranked in the top 25. And then at the bottom it says, I know that the text is small, but it says 4 wins against teams ranked or receiving votes in the AP top 25 poll at the time of the game. So that's his case. We heard from Lane Kiffin yesterday fighting about Ole Miss. I haven't even seen people talking about Ole Miss. I know he has a case for Ole Miss, but I haven't seen that be like, I haven't seen anybody talking about it. Vegas knows. Vegas knows. The odds for who gets in for these bubble teams, you have Alabama minus 200, SMU minus 250, South Carolina plus 480, right? Vegas knows. Miami at plus 750 and then Ole Miss at plus 2,000. Falcon Wings 1982. What's up, man? I appreciate you. He says, maybe they will be exposed, but the point is here to see it, and there's no doubt. My dude, no one outside the SEC country wants to see an SEC regional. Yeah, I think so. You know, I think when I look at the bracket and people who put up these brackets together, like, for example, just go to Brett's bracket real quick. When you look to kind of like SEC games that could take place or rematches, right? He doesn't have any, I don't see, inside the first round. Quarterfinals, you do have a matchup between Texas and Georgia. That would put them on the same side of the bracket. So you would see Georgia in this scenario playing Oregon, which I wouldn't be mad about. But he has Oregon up top beating Ohio State again. Oh, man, that's a good one. I would probably have it in this scenario, or Ohio State beating Oregon, Ohio State beating Notre Dame, and then Kirby Smart beating Ohio State, and Ryan Day again losing, right? People were saying he's on the hot seat. I don't know. The guy wins, but he just doesn't win big games, and he doesn't beat Michigan. That would be like being here in Tuscaloosa and winning all your games and like never being able to beat Auburn. Like, that doesn't fly, right? I'll go through this one more time. Bama's 9-3, 3-1 versus top 25. Miami hasn't played a top 25 team, which is crazy to me. They have 2 unranked losses as well. South Carolina, quality team. Their best win is against Clemson. They lost to Alabama, but nobody wants to talk about that game. That was like, I guess we were the only ones that watched that game, which is weird. I have to be honest in saying this. I'm starting to feel like if Clemson wins, the ACC championship game, I kind of feel that they're going to put SMU in over Alabama. I feel that they won't really punish SMU for getting to the ACC championship game. They'll be 2-1 against top 25 teams, comparable top 25 record to Alabama. You know, I could see that happening. I'm feeling that it's giving me a little bit of disease, you know, looking at SMU losing to Clemson. I don't, you know, that the game's like 1.5. Who knows who's going to win that game? Oh my goodness. Can you imagine if Penn State beat Alabama? That won't happen. That would be crazy. James Franklin? No. And then ESPN, the rankings right here, has 62, 41, and 30 for Bama. Road Warrior in with another super. Appreciate it. TCU versus Georgia 2 years ago. All the reason to leave out lower schools like SMU. I know. Look, that would be an interesting game. That TCU team versus this SMU team. We've seen it before. And what will happen is, I would imagine that this will probably happen again because the ACC is light. But look, before we leave this graphic, tell your friends and family to root for SMU. I think that's the way that they get in. Because then SMU's in, and then Clemson's out, and then it really just comes down to South Carolina or Miami. I really don't think Miami has a leg to stand on. What I'll do today is I'll see what Miami's saying, why they think that they should be in the playoffs. I don't really see. And so what to watch tonight at 6 p.m. is the releasing of the new rankings and bracket. It's not the final one, so don't freak out because we still have to have these championship games take place. And I know people don't really like to hear this, but Bama moves the needle. They do. It's about the big man move, right? Here's my bracket. I'm not Heather Denich. I'm not Brett McMurphy. I'm not Josh Pate. I'm just a small YouTuber. That's it. But here's my bracket. I have Oregon, Texas. This is my bracket if Oregon, Texas, and SMU win on the left. This is kind of the bracket that we're hoping for. And I guess Georgia, and I have if UGA wins on the other side. But my bracket on the left, Oregon, Texas, SMU, Boise, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Georgia, Tennessee, Penn State, Indiana, Big 12 champ, Alabama. In that scenario, Alabama is on the road playing Notre Dame, South Bend. Oceanic Jazz is asking me, do I think that SMU could beat Clemson? They've beaten everybody else in the ACC. So, yeah. The only thing that it gets me a little bit concerned is the fact that Clemson just lost and that they should be dialed in because they know that they're playing to get in. And let's face it, Dabo Swinney can get you up. He's got the fire. My bracket on the right reads, and that's if Oregon, Georgia, and Clemson win. I still have Alabama in over SMU, which I'm less confident about today. Buckethead boy, what's up, man? Appreciate you being here. Jimmy Williams says, this Miami fan called into Paul Feinbaum show yesterday to rant about Miami being in, but Miami hasn't played a ranked team to even be considered. I know. That's the thing. Plus, all of their games were back and forth. Lisa, what's up? Appreciate you. She's saying people don't want Bama in because they are haters. It doesn't matter what their stats are, schedule of strength. They will ignore it because they hate Bama. That 100%. Plus, they don't want to play Bama. They don't want to prepare for Jalen Milroe. You imagine getting Alabama in the playoffs? What if you're like, yeah, we made the playoffs. We're the number 5 seed. Who you guys matched up against? Bama? You'd be like, oh, shit. Nobody is like, yeah, we got Bama. You get like Boise or SMU or Indiana. Look, if you get Indiana, Penn State, right, SMU, Boise, you're like, oh, we're about to do work. We're about to cook. You get Bama, you're like, oh, all right, okay, let's see. But in the back of your mind, you're stressing 100%. All right, let's move to National Signing Day. We'll take calls tomorrow when we have the bracket to chew on. Does that sound good, Angel? Plus, we're going to have a huge show tomorrow with signing day. So things change. And now signing day is December 4th. It feels like yesterday when signing day was the first Wednesday of February. They just pushed everything up. This is where Coach Kalen DeBoer has an edge, right? I get it. He's not preparing for the championship game this coming Saturday, but he has more time to work on roster management and solidifying late recruiting deals, right? Getting guys on board in the final minute. He can adjust. He can focus all his time and attention right now to recruiting in the transfer portal and to his roster, 100%, which is great because what's going to happen in life is going to happen in life, right? Joe, what's up, man? What did the committee even look at for Cuz because they pick things and go about things wild? Yeah. I don't know. I think when all is said and done, you also have to add in like the TV ratings factors. I know it sounds crazy, but they do that. They want to see matchups. They want ratings. So he has more time, Coach Kalen DeBoer, to work on this. There's a couple guys on Flip Watch. I would watch for Derek Meadows. I'm sure you've seen that. Looks like Antoine Fagans, who's committed to Auburn, could be another guy that comes over to Alabama. Remember his brother, Traquan, from a couple years ago. And it looks like a transfer or a flip could be going outside of Alabama with Ty Haywood waiting to sign. So let's kind of dive into it. This is from On3's interface. So I follow On3. I follow that's probably the number one recruiting site that I follow. And then I go to, Rivals. I worked for Rivals for a long time. And then, of course, you have 24/7. So choose your recruiting site. All of them do a great job. For me, I'm about aesthetics, and I feel that the On3 interface looks good to me. I'm not paid by any of those guys, so it's just me. This is a screenshot of some of the guys that are in this class of 2025 recruiting class for Coach Kalen DeBoer. All right. The big ones are up to the left. Keelan Russell, absolutely must. This dude is that guy. I promise you. We always hype up these freshmen. It's imperative that they package this guy, that they have him, that they get him here as soon as possible. Someone asked me, as I mentioned in the opening about our Facebook channel, someone asked me on the Facebook channel, they were like, who would you compare him to? Let me ask you inside the comment box, and I'll give my assessment as well. Who would you compare Keelan Russell to in terms of a quarterback style? Because the way that they framed the question was like, is he similar to any of the quarterbacks that Alabama's had over the last 5-6 seasons? I don't think so. I don't think he compares to any of those guys. I think he's like, while he can move around and he does have athleticism, I think his pocket presence, I think his arm is really strong. He's got height, right? I believe he's probably going to be the tallest quarterback that they've had in a little bit of time, right? I think he's taller than Milroe. Not as like physically big, but he's tall. Jarvis is saying Shadori Sanders. I'm telling you, just wait. This guy, I don't know about Lamar Jackson. I kind of compare Jalen more to Lamar. Damn, someone else, Ricky Smith saying Lamar too. He's lengthy. He's much bigger than Bryce though. Bo Nix, say what you want about Bo Nix. Bo Nix can cook. All right. All right, so we'll chew on that in terms of the comparison. We'll break it down. We'll look at his film. You know what, Cam W? I was 100% going to say that the only difference is one is right-handed and one is left. I was going to say Michael Penix. I promise you. I think in terms of his fluid delivery, it kind of looks like, Michael Penix. Jaden Daniels, he's going to be, I think he could be a blend. This is it. I think he could be a blend of Michael Penix and Jaden Daniels. I really do. That's the comparison. Oh, thanks, Eric D. But I thought Fagans could be in the mix too. Well, we'll look on that for tomorrow. But thanks for the heads up, Eric D. No, Austin Mack is like 6'7", 6'8". So he would be the tallest quarterback, clearly, right? This Michael Carroll guy up here to the left, these two are like, I would imagine, two of the top prospects in the overall country. And as you can see, I mean, number 1, number 2 in the state, nationally, number 2, number 14. This is a hell of a combo right here. This is like, if you're building a foundation for Coach Kalen DeBoer's first recruiting class, this is incredible. Now the downside is this guy right here, Ty Haywood, it looks like he's about to flip to Michigan. So that's another big loss. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, oh, man, it's okay, not too worried about. Yeah, I'm worried about that. That's a big one, 100%. The good news is, and we're about to talk about him in a second, is Derek Meadows looks to be flipping from LSU to Alabama in terms of a wide receiver. This is the other guy. I'm probably most excited about these guys right here. Number 1, clearly. Number 2, Dejon Lee. Like, this guy is a really big corner. And yesterday I was thinking about this, and we talked about this back and forth. I'm not sure if Damani Jackson will leave to the NFL. I think he's played well enough to at least test the waters. I really do. We'll go back and forth on that, on Damani Jackson. But Dejon Lee, according to West Coast analyst Greg Biggins, I used to work with him out in California. He said that Dejon Lee's like never beaten over the top. So next year, I would imagine if Damani leaves, you have competition at quarterback because you're going to have Xavier Brown, maybe, Dejon Lee, Jalen Mbakwe, right? Other guys I'm excited about. I mean, it's hard not to get excited about these running backs, but the competition here is so high. It's like, yeah, welcome on in, but you're at the back, which is fine. You're going to have to be back there. This guy's super athletic up here, Jackson Lloyd. Justin Hill, very talented. Ivan Taylor, he was a guy who just recently flipped from Michigan to Alabama. You know what? Down here on the right, this Cavante Henry, this guy could play sooner than later. Keep an eye on him. And then Caleb Edwards, this is a great one at tight end. Alabama certainly needs a tight end, losing C.J. Dupree and Robbie Oots. Chuck McDonald, this guy's solid as well from California. Oh, how about this guy? Who's excited to see Latier Brooks? Latier Brooks, this guy up here, he's made ESPN like 2 or 3 times, like mossing people. Jay Bake's saying Damani's coming back. See, but Max is saying he's gone. I don't know. I hope he comes back. I really do. I think, here's the thing. I think if Damani Jackson leaves right now, he's like a 3rd round guy. But I think if he comes back, he's like the man. Yo, Damani is absolutely, I think Damani needs to come back. He's starting to play his best football right now. I would say come back. Larry Large likes Jackson Lloyd. You see that video of Jackson Lloyd throwing it down, dunking the basketball? Luke Metz, this dude has stayed. This guy has been committed and stood on his ground. Oh, this guy. I forgot about this guy. Have you seen this guy? Marshall Pritchett. So I think he's closer to 6'6". Yo, this guy is good. I think he could maybe even be a wide receiver. He lists himself as a wide receiver. This Marshall Pritchett. We'll look at, so tomorrow what we'll do as the guys come in, we'll put up their highlights. We'll make sure that you know that they are signed and committed and all that stuff. So here's kind of a snapshot. There's a couple other guys that need to trickle in as well. Again, these screenshots are from On3. And right now, I looked this morning, they're number 1 on the recruiting class. Things go up, things go down. I don't imagine this guy being in the class, Ty Haywood. That's kind of like word on the street. All right. A couple additional notes to watch for is Ty Haywood, as mentioned. He's a 5-star. Looks like he's going to flip to Michigan. Michigan wants to protect Bryce Underwood. Ty Haywood, that's going to be a big flip. And you looked at the flips out of Alabama. Yeah, they were impactful, 100%. I mean, Caleb Cunningham, huge loss, for sure. But you got a lot of wide receivers coming back, or at least you think they do. You look to Turbo Rogers, in-state guy. He wasn't going to play. But I think this is probably the biggest flip that they're losing is Ty Haywood. And then I would say Caleb Cunningham, just because of the talent that you're returning. But when you talk about Coach Kalen DeBoer and the wins and the losses and the approval rating and all this stuff, like, he's recruiting at a very high level. We'll highlight tomorrow Courtney Morgan. He's the GM responsible for a lot of the roster management and the recruiting. Exceptional guy. I saw that Andrew Luck is being titled as a GM at Stanford. You see this? They were on the broadcast. They were saying this is the first guy to be like the general manager, and I was like, Courtney Morgan's the general manager. He was the general manager at Washington. Like, it's a copycat league, right? So they got the idea from Washington, brought it to Stanford, but Alabama's already been doing that. Yep. Ricky, yeah, this is a loss for sure. Ty Haywood going to Michigan. You get the money. And from what I saw Naheem Oford. Looks like he could be flipping to Auburn. Did you guys see that too? Right now, this was this morning, Alabama ranked as the number 1 recruiting class. And I think when you look at Alabama right now, whether they're number 1 in the recruiting class, number 2 in the recruiting class 3, I think it says a lot about Courtney Morgan and a lot about Coach Kalen DeBoer and their overall philosophy to be able to sell this program and continue the brand, right? The brand has always been the top prospects come into Alabama because they want an opportunity to compete at the highest level, a chance now to play on ABC, but a chance to get developed in the NFL. A lot of people sleep on the fact that Coach Kalen DeBoer, in terms of developing guys to go to the NFL. He sent 10 guys last year from Washington, which was, I think, the same amount as Saban. So you get them in. Alabama's always ahead of the curve in terms of the technological advancements that they have here, the Sports and Science Center. So guys want to come here. I think this is tremendous that Coach Kalen DeBoer has an opportunity to even finish in the top 5 for recruiting. Who would have thought that? I mean, Coach Saban did an amazing job recruiting, and Coach Kalen DeBoer has not dropped that torch in any fashion. So we'll watch tomorrow on signing day, but this is one hell of a recruiting class in your first year. Oceanic Jazz in with the super. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much. Going to be an exciting race for quarterback 1. I was at Bryant-Denny for the Mercer game, and it was nice to see Simpson and Mack with some playing time. I feel that Keelan might show up and take over, though. I said this as well. I feel that Keelan Russell is coming in to start. I think there's going to be one hell of a quarterback competition. And look, I do think I'm a person that feels, when the first snaps come out in spring, I would give it to Ty Simpson. But I'm going to have a competition for the position. I want a high-level player here at quarterback. I want somebody that can distribute the football to the receivers. I want a quarterback that can be mobile, for sure. But I want a quarterback that can get the playmakers that Alabama has the ball, because what that does is that's attractive. And what that does is that moves the football. And what that does is it sustains drives. And what it does is it feeds the running back, right? So Coach Kalen DeBoer getting Keelan Russell in this first recruiting class, it says a lot about the direction of the program going forward. Another super chat in from Professional Certified Hater. Keelan Russell reminds me of a taller, athletic Bryce Young. See, I don't know if I agree with that comparison, and here's why. Bryce Young, his escapability is like 100%. Now, Russell moves well in the pocket, right? Keep his eyes downfield, but I don't think he has the same side-to-side athleticism as Bryce Young. I don't know. I'll dive more into that, but Bryce was like, remember when they were calling him the gingerbread man? You couldn't catch him. I appreciate the super chat, though, man. Thank you so much. Big Bet is saying, what I love most about Keelan is how fast he developed over the past year. It says a lot. The guy has a big arm. The guy keeps his eyes downfield. He moves really well in the pocket, played against really good competition. No, I think he'll come in. I certainly think he'll push for the starting spot. Championship weekend is this Saturday, all right? We're all pooling. I think as we get closer, we're starting to pool for SMU. The game that I think is least likely that there's upsets is, we talked about this. I don't think there's any shot that Penn State beats Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised somehow if UNLV beats Boise. I don't know. I mean, I'm not betting on that, but Boise wins that game, and who knows? You imagine if UNLV gets in the playoffs, taking Arizona State, taking Georgia, and I guess pulling for SMU. Is there any upsets? Who's your upset this weekend in the weekend of championship football? Post inside the comment box. Who is your upset pick? I was going to say Georgia, but I don't even think that would be an upset. But in terms of the odds, I'll take Georgia beating Texas. And I don't know. I don't know if I take SMU to beat Clemson. But I do know I'm not going to take Penn State to beat Oregon. That's like my last on my list. Transfer portal. It opens up December 9th. Nobody knows who's going to go in the transfer portal. It's all speculation. Is it scary? Hell yeah, it's scary. Because you don't know what's going to happen. That's it. Look, from a drama perspective, code red. Everybody's on transfer portal watch, okay? Is it good for college football? I don't know, but it sure is exciting to track. If you have your notifications turned on right now for all these guys who do an incredible job covering the transfer portal, man, I can't even imagine having to track all this stuff. Let me set the bar right now at 10 players. From December 9th to December 24th. How many players do you think into the transfer portal? More from Alabama. More or less than 10? More or less than 10 players to the transfer portal. Let me know inside the comment box. I think I'm going to say... Well, a lot will depend, too, on if they make the playoffs. Right? Here's my transfer portal watch list. Again, I have no intel to any of these guys if they're going to transfer out of Alabama. Watching the roster, looking at the roster, these are the guys that make sense to me in terms of guys that could transfer on. Okay, and I'll give you a little bit of reasoning why. Dylan Lonergan, we're talking about Ty Simpson. We're talking about Keelan Russell. We're talking about Austin Mack. Haven't really mentioned much about Dylan Lonergan. I think he's a fine quarterback. I really do. Look at the success that Eli Holsting has had at Pittsburgh. There's nothing wrong with going somewhere else and shining. I just think right here, he might be the odd man out, and I think he could play sooner or later somewhere else. I really do. Let me ask you inside the comment box. High or low probability that Dylan Lonergan hits the transfer portal? Eight or nine? Say about 5. I probably put it like on a 6. Again, I know the team. I know the roster management. People saying high. I'm with you. I think it's high. You guys are saying high. I get it. And there's nothing against him at all. In fact, it's almost like a sign of respect because I think this guy goes somewhere else and plays immediately. And there's no shame if you're going somewhere else to compete. You're going to have to compete wherever you go. Wherever you go inside the transfer portal. And it's important to know this. There's no automatic you got the job. There's not. A lot of guys are going elsewhere. You just saw the USC quarterback Miller Moss. He just hit the transfer portal. There's no place where you automatically go and just start. You got to work wherever single place you go. You have to compete. Official CJ Jackson, what's up, man? Saying very high probability on Dylan Lonergan. I think we're all on board on this one. Okay, same thing. We'll do high or low probability. High or low probability on Kendrick Law hitting the transfer portal. I'm going to say high. Alabama, they've tried to get him the football. I think they've thrown him a bone by having him return kicks. I also think K-Law has, maybe shot him in the foot a couple times. We look back to the personal foul penalty. Sometimes he don't run north and south. I think he's excited to have opportunities. It's just that these other guys right now are playing at a higher level. I hope he doesn't leave. If they can utilize him and get him the football, he can be really dynamic. So we got kind of some mixed reactions in terms of high probability or low. People would be, look, if Kendrick Law announces that he is staying, Alabama football fans will be really, really happy. Do the next thing. Next player. Kobe Prentice. High or low probability on Kobe Prentice. You could throw mid too, Scuba. I like that. High, mid, or low probability that Kobe hits the transfer portal. Man, another guy that I really respect his game. Look, in the offense, in the identity that Alabama has this year, you're just going to have 2 receivers and some tight ends and some running backs. There's not a lot of guys that are being spread out the football, and that's just the offense under Milroe. Next year will be a different offense. Next year is not too far away. KTK saying hi. Ricky saying hi. Wade World saying bye, Kobe. And there's a lot of wide receivers that went other places and got fed. Ja'Cory Brooks. I know Malik Benson didn't have the best season at Florida State, but he got fed. Isaiah Bond, right? Kobe Prentice goes somewhere else, he plays. I recently saw on a Facebook post, it was about Milroe. I think AL.com posted it or someone like that, and Kobe Prentice went and was like, just want to say that I love Jalen Milroe, and that dude leaves his heart out on the field. What a class act. I've never heard him complain. I've never heard any of these players complain, to be honest. Besides, I think Caleb Odom, which is the next player we're talking about, he might have said something. Sometimes they say these ambiguous things out of all these people. I think he said something. Caleb Odom, high, mid, low probability that he transfers out. I'm actually going to say no. I'm going to say low that Caleb Odom leaves. I think that Jamarcus Shepard will be able to get him to stay, and Coach Kalen DeBoer. I think they have a plan for Caleb Odom. You can't. I don't think you let Caleb Odom leave. I think you show him a plan, and you know what? They've been getting him on the field a little bit more, like at least out on the field. And I know we went back and forth about him maybe going back to tight end. I don't think he wants to play tight end. He wants to be a wide receiver, and that's fine. And I think he could be a fine wide receiver. I think he could be an NFL type receiver. When he tweeted some of that stuff, I would have said probably high that he leaves, but I've seen him being utilized more. I think he stays, and I think they'll be able to utilize him. I don't think you can lose him. I mean, he's got a lot of eligibility left. You know, K-Law would hurt. Kobe would hurt. I think Caleb, because his ceiling is still so high, don't let him leave. Figure out how to keep him. If it's even something. He might not even be interested to leave at all. Again, this is all speculation, what we're talking about. If no insight to any of these players, I'm sure that everybody is having roster conversations either with their family, maybe their agents, or with Coach Kalen DeBoer. That's the beauty of the transfer portal. No one knows anything. But I hope that Caleb Odom, I hope that he doesn't leave, because I think there's a bigger plan in place for him in the offense, and I think he'll shine. I think he's talented. I mean, all these guys are, but I think he has it. I'm pulling for him to stay, if it's even a thing. The last guy that kind of makes sense to me would be Keon Keeley. You know what I know. He don't play. And he changed positions from the Wolf to the Bandit. And he put on 35 pounds. I kind of feel it was an experiment that didn't work. There was some people that the rumor is that, he couldn't, he was doing off the field stuff. We have no idea. It's a rumor. We have no idea if that's true. What I've seen with my eyes is that the guy, his highlight tape before he added these 35 pounds, monster, 6'5", 204. I thought he was going to play this year at the Wolf position. He's very comparable to Yanzi Pierre. I hope he stays. You need that bandit position. If he can maybe develop into a bandit type player, can you imagine if you have him next year and Yanzi Pierre and Quay Rusa? Freddie Roach had a lot of positive things to say about Keon Keeley not too long ago. Other guys I was thinking about, I mentioned Richard Young's name. You just have to keep him. I don't care what you have to do, but you have to keep him. I don't even think he's going to, be thinking about transferring. But it's hard because, when you're a running back and you have Jam returning, Justice returning, it's hard to sit, but just be patient. That guy is a treasure. He reminds me of a running back from the past. That's what gets me so excited about him. Those are just some guys that I had kind of on mind that probably a lot of people talking about. But again, nobody knows. That's the beautiful thing about the transfer portal. All right, Tennis Girl, what's up? She just straight up was like, Alabama make the playoffs. Let me run through this one more time in case you guys haven't seen, some of the graphics that I showed earlier regarding playoff chances, and then we'll wrap it up. All right, so long story short, will Alabama make the playoffs? We don't know. Alabama is a bubble team, as you can see from this graphic. 30% by ESPN, right? You can track this as well, ESPN playoff predictor. Heather Dinich of ESPN, I won't read out the quote, I already read it in the beginning, but she said that she has Miami in because their losses are better than Alabama's losses, being that Alabama lost to Oklahoma and Vanderbilt, which are two teams that have 6 losses, right? Oh, Wayne's World, dude. I love that dude, Richard Young. And you know what about Richard Young, too? I gained even more appreciation for his play later on in the season. And then when I was playing this video game, dude, have you played Richard Young on this game? Dude, It's crazy. He's like unstoppable. Brett McMurphy, who works for the Action Network, put out a poll recently polling fans about if SMU, if they beat Clemson in the ACC championship, who would make it? And to my surprise, and I'm sure yours as well, unless South Carolina got a hold of this poll, the Gamecocks in at 42%. Is South Carolina one of the best 12 teams? Arguably, for sure. But the fact of the matter is they're not better than Alabama because Alabama beat them head-to-head. Head-to-head matters, period. I don't care what you say, head-to-head matters. This is Brett McMurphy's playoff bracket from the Action Network. You can follow him. You can go to the Action Network. Kind of a low-key, underrated site, to be honest. He has Bama in at 11. 11 would play the 6, which would be Alabama playing Penn State. I would love that matchup, to be honest. I don't think James Franklin would be very excited about drawing Alabama in the first round. Toe Easy is saying, any truth to Ryan Williams entering the portal and being unhappy? I haven't seen that anywhere. I think Ryan Williams is being taken care of. I think his brand is absolutely through the roof. The guy deserves every single thing that he gets. He's a playmaker. The plays that he's made this year have been memorable. He is that guy already. Because of the guardrails or the lack of guardrails in college football, how could you fault anybody for at least going in the transfer portal for like an hour just to hear an offer? What if there's an offer out for you that for like $25 million? We don't know because you could just put your toe in. That is scary to think about, but this is the world we live in. We also touched on the fact that the BCS computer rankings have Alabama at 11, South Carolina at 12. I wouldn't be mad if this computer just put out the 12 teams and we just played it. Maybe we go back to the Terminator 2 model. I don't know. But these seem to be the best 12 teams. The problem is they rank the teams and then try to fit them into the bracket based on the criteria, which doesn't make sense. Rank the teams 1 through 12 and put the 12 teams in the bracket. That's it. That's how to do it. Hey, Robert, I appreciate you, man. Thank you so much. I hope you guys have a great Christmas, too. Look, this is a busy month. We go heavy in December. That's how it is. I appreciate you guys. Scuba Steve is saying, why would SMU not get in? That and that's something that I continue to think about as I feel that as we get closer to this, and we'll know more tonight, but I think if SMU loses to Clemson, I think they probably take SMU over Alabama. I'm feeling kind of weird about that. Greg Byrne basically said what this says, and you can pause it, but he's like, the schedule of strength is something that needs to be heavily valued, which is 100% accurate. The SEC was crazy this year, and that's why, like Notre Dame, they're not even part of a conference. Boise State plays in the Mountain West. Arizona State and Iowa State are playing in the Big 12. None of those teams could handle. They wouldn't win 6 to 7 games in the SEC. Ole Miss could win any of those conferences. Ole Miss would win the Mountain West. Ole Miss would win the Big 12. Ole Miss would probably win the ACC. Think about what I just said. Ole Miss would win the ACC. Greg Byrne also pointed out the fact that Alabama is second in opponent winning percentage, number 4 in ESPN FPI, number 4 in ESPN efficiency rating. That's offense, defense, and special teams. Tennis Girl also asking about Ryan Williams' favorite nail polish color. I think that he paint them, or his sister paints them based off the opponent that they're playing. That's the last thing that I heard. So maybe orange because they just beat Auburn. I don't know. Vegas, how it has the teams ranked. Alabama, the edge over SMU. Vegas seems to know. Vegas, the computer rankings. But the problem is that it's a committee of people that jump in a room and they rank the teams. Here are the teams side by side. I mentioned this graphic a couple times. You see that South Carolina played one hell of a schedule going 3-3 versus top 25. Miami didn't play any top 25 teams. And then Alabama is 3-1 against top 25 team with the best win being against Georgia. That's why also, fam, listen, Alabama beats Georgia, right, this season. Georgia beats Texas. You could say Alabama beat the SEC champ. That's the best win that there is. And I guess Ole Miss will be pumping their chest and saying the same thing. The thing with this Alabama team, all right? The thing with this Alabama team is nobody wants Alabama because of what they are capable of doing to you on the football field, okay? I think what terrifies people, and they're afraid to say this, is if Alabama plays like they did in the first half of that Georgia game, they probably become a buzzsaw and win the whole college football championship game. That team, we saw that team for the first half. Where the hell is that team? I don't know. It's somewhere in there, though. Because when they played in that first half, I don't think there's a team in college football that Alabama couldn't have beaten that night. Now, the second half was a little shaky, and Kirby Smart made some great adjustments. But for that first half, Alabama was the greatest football team in 2024. 100%. And that's in there somewhere. And the way that they beat the pants off LSU, that's in there. Now, which team will show up? I don't know. You got to shake the 8 ball and see what happens. Feast or famine. Ask back later. Feast or famine. Remember the 8 ball? Remember what? Do people still use those? Remember when you shake it up? You buy them at like the arcade and you ask them. Hit on signing day, and of course all your great recruiting sites. I mean, there's a ton to go over. A lot of guys, but you know, Keelan Russell, Michael Carroll. Once those guys sign the official paperwork, it's time to party. All right, because the DeBoer era is, you know, inking some 5 stars, and it'll be a good recruiting class. Top 5, top 2, top 3. I don't care. It's impressive to me what he's been able to do in year 1 with all the NIL and the world is falling down, all this stuff. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Remember, I am supported by viewers like you, so a simple thumbs up goes a long way on my shows. Every single day, I'm live at 10 in the morning, Monday through Friday, and then as major news happens. Tomorrow, I'm going to have a lengthier show that features highlights from the players who do commit and sign to the University of Alabama, flip news, all that stuff. It'll be an action-packed day. And then tonight, I will be live again for the College Football Playoff Show. I'll probably start 30 minutes before the show. And you know what I'll do? I might start a little bit before and take some calls going into the playoff show. So if you want to call, rap with me, that would be cool. Ricky Smith remembers the 8 ball. Remember, you would shake it up, right? Is Coach Kalen DeBoer fit for Alabama? Ask again after the playoffs. All right. I appreciate you guys. Be good people. Enjoy this beautiful thing they call life, and we will catch you next time right here on Bama Football on YouTube. I appreciate you guys. Coming to you from Hollywood, Alabama. Kyle Henderson, Bama Football on YouTube. Love you guys. Catch up with you soon right here on Bama Football on YouTube. See ya.